Good afternoon. My name's Paul Lashmar. I'm Dr. Paul Lashmar. I'm the Deputy Head of the Department of Journalism at City University of London. Please ignore my colleague, Professor Suzanne Frank's name on there. She's away at the moment, so you've got me. As you probably know, City University is well known for its journalism department, and I'm going to talk to you about it over the next few minutes and provide a bit of an explanation, and then I will deal with questions that are being sent up through the system to me. So the first thing I'll do is move on to the next slide, and I'll explain that we have a number of courses. We do both postgraduate and undergraduate. This is for the postgraduate, and I'm just going to pull, hopefully you can see this if I click that again. So we have a number of courses. The first is the MA International Journalism. This is the course that does tend to attract people from many countries. In previous years, we sometimes have had candidates from something like 44 different nations join us. So it's a very diverse group of people, and there is a lot of experience within the group we find. Now, when we say it's international journalism, we're not saying it's a course for international students per se. What we're saying is it's a course where those taking it, when you're on the course, you're particularly looking outwards, if you like. So you're not really interested in just looking at the UK. Some of our other courses are quite focused on the UK. This one is not. So we do actually have students from the UK and the EU on the course, as well as people from many other countries. So the purpose of the course is to teach you very much how to report from one country perhaps to another country. So that's what we mean by international. It's not, as happens in some universities, a course designed purely for international students. So you would have the opportunity to meet with people who live and have grown up in the UK. So that's the first one, and it's approximately 90 students. We then have an MA television course. Now, this is a MA in television journalism. It attracts approximately 30. We interview on all our courses, and we have room for approximately 30 students on that course per year. And this one is very much focused on teaching you the arts of television. So you learn how to make television news packages, how to broadcast, how to work as though you were. And we do a lot of live work of producing news bulletins and news broadcasts, and you learn very, very quickly how to, usually in the first week, how to use a camera, how to edit, and how to make very professional-looking news packages. The next course is the MA Broadcast Journalism course. That we have capacity for up to 50 students each year. Now that's a bit more broad because by broadcast we mean television and radio. So you do both, and you learn learn how to do both of those at different points. So at the end of it, you're ready to work in any broadcast news organisation, and that's what we do with that. And then the next is an MA in newspaper journalism. Now, although in some countries newspaper journalism is slightly on the decline, in many parts of the world it's still very vibrant. In countries like India, the number of newspapers being sold is actually growing. And to provide an opportunity for candidates to come and join us, we can take up to 45 students per year. We have this course, and it focuses very much on how to write for print, how to produce well-written pieces, both news stories, but also features and also longer pieces. But it's very much focused on the kind of delivery you might have for newspapers. We also give you the opportunity to look at a range of other skills. We deal with multimedia along the way because these days, if you're working on a newspaper, they expect you to be able to work on the website as well as the paper itself. So we certainly give you experience of that. The next course we'll look at is the MA Magazine Journalism. This is, as it's described, this focuses more on how to write the kind of pieces you're likely to find in a magazine as opposed to newspaper, and certainly it's it focuses on the written word above all, but you will get some experience, again, in how to work in the multimedia, because most magazines these days clearly have online presence, and you've got to be able to work on those too. But what we're looking for here is a kind of more stylized writing, the kind of writing if you were going to work on, it could be a lifestyle magazine, sports magazine, it could be a news magazine, but they're of any kind, but so that you develop and find in yourself the kind of style of writing that you think it will be attractive, and we will guide you how to do that. We have on that course approximately 42 students each year. So that's giving you a range of those kind of general, these are very, the ones I've described to you at the moment are very media specific. We now move to the MA in Financial Journalism. This is more of a specialist subject. Essentially, again, one is learning how to be a news reporter, a news journalist. So you're learning the skills of how to write in news style and how to deliver quite complicated and complex ideas simply. I mean, that's the essence for all people who are, one of the reasons you become a journalist is to acquire a number of skills that are transferable into other areas. The ability to take complex information and to explain things simply. Now, the finance journalism course is designed so that people can go on to work in the financial journalism sector. And each year we have students who go to places like Reuters, Bloomberg, CNN, lots of different locations where they are their skills are very much honed about how to deliver financial or business news. So what's particularly interesting about the financial journalism course, and really makes it very special for those who are interested, is it's supported by the Marjorie Dean Trust, and the Marjorie Dean Trust is there because of a well-known UK financial reporter who left in the will money to help train further journalists in the kind of thing that she did for many, many years very, very successfully. What this means in practice is that you get the opportunity to go to Shanghai, to the Fudan University, and spend a week there. And you get to go around to Shanghai and see the various news agencies and media. You get a sense of the economic situation, the financial sector in Shanghai, but also the news organizations that are supporting it. So I've been there myself for a week, and it's a really interesting opportunity to learn an awful lot. On that course, you also go to the United States, to New York, where you have a similar experience. So this is all supported by the Marjorie Dean Trust, so it doesn't cost any additional money other than your basic fee. We take approximately 18 students for that. It's a very specialized course, and it's very effective. Just about all our students find work immediately afterwards, as we do generally across all our courses. But there's a real demand for financial journalists at this time, so it's a very, very good opportunity. I now move on to the MA Investigative Journalism course. This is we are one of the few universities that do an MA Investigative Journalism course as a specific course in itself, and it's proven very successful. We can take something like 24 students this year. We've got 24 at the moment, and we're finding the demand is increasing because I think with the uncertainty in the world, it's not just the UK that's facing uncertainty. There's a lot of interest in, how you bring power to account. We've seen across the world, lots of actions where there's a lot of corruption, there's people abusing power, and this is a particular place where the media are important. The UK notion that investigative journalism means effectively helping to make democracy more robust, and that you look into how politicians bring them to account and how the rich and powerful act, and and I think there's a sort of very strong move at the moment among the students coming into us that care about wanting to make a difference in the world. This is particularly attractive course to them. So that should give you some indication, and you learn a lot of skills in it because investigative journalism requires not only the basics of knowing how to write news stories, how to cover a patch. By a patch, I mean an area. That could be a geographical area, or a specialism area, to the point that you can dig more deeply than perhaps other journalists tend to do. And that can include freedom of information skills, and it can include data journalism skills. So there's a lot going on there. Finally on this list, I come to the MA Interactive course. That's a course with, we take approximately 20 students a year. This is really cutting-edge multimedia. This is where we're now looking more and more at how to produce news not only in the traditional media, but also online, in mobile journalism, and many other kinds of sector, through social media, through mobile, through different kinds of websites, and it's constantly being updated. And here we do quite a lot of computer skills. So again, that's got a sort of specialist area, and has been very effective and is attracting more students year on year. So those are our courses. So that's which I wish to outline, and I hope I've done a reasonable job of that. So the next slide that comes up, teaching and learning. I imagine that you're wondering, how does this work in practice? Well, the first thing I should say, it's a very hands-on course. If you were thinking of doing an English course or you were doing a history course, you would attend a few lectures a week, and then you'd go away and read, and then you occasionally do an essay or you would do an exam. Coming to journalism postgrad, it's very full-on, very intense. Our courses tend to be, except the international, about 10 months. The international is a full year, and we lay on a lot of lectures, seminars, workshops, trips, and we expect you to be pretty busy most of the week. So we do, though, try and divide it up so it's sort of people coming in understand which days they've got to do what. And, for instance, on a Monday, you'd be coming in to do lectures and seminars. We have a cross-course ethics section. Ethics is a very important part of delivering journalism training to students. So this is one I run, and I bring in guests from all sorts of different places, foreign correspondents, investigative journalists, and from the various regulatory bodies to discuss how journalism ethics needs to work in practice, how in different countries, and particularly the UK, because we are a UK university, how it's regulated in the UK. So you'll be listening to some leading experts each week on that, and then we'll actually start to set you tests to think through difficult ethical questions. You do that in an essay singularly, and then we have group sessions in the second term to work through these things, and you're assessed on that. The practical work, actually committing acts of journalism, tends to take place on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday of the week, and it depends on which course you are on as to what you do. But essentially, we start from the beginning. We make sure that you can, write basic journalism to tell a story in the most interesting possible way, take complex information, be topical, find your own stories. And we often send people out to go and find stories out in the community. London is, of course, a fantastic place to find stories. It's a huge capital. There are lots of things going on, and so we concentrate that. If you're on TV, you'll be in the TV studio part of those days. If you're on radio, you'll be doing some radio. And we've got plenty of facilities, and I'm going to come to facilities in a little while. And we have there are various specialisms. Now, when I was talking to you about the main courses, we also we also provide in the second term a batch of specialisms that you can elect to take. And these range from, there is an investigative, for those not on the investigative course, want to learn something about investigative journalism, you can do that. There's crime and security, there's a course on that. There's a course on business, there's a course on lifestyle, and we have 9 or 10 each year running so that you get an opportunity to spend a term looking in some depth at a specialist area which will add to your skill base. Often on the social and digital, we have a news test on Fridays, just to make sure you're on top of everything. It is absolutely vital if you're going to become a journalist that you're completely immersed in the news, and when we interview for our courses, and we may well ask you some questions about what's happening in the news, just to make sure that you really are the kind of person that should come on a journalism course. I mean, it is fundamental that if you're interested in being a journalist, that you should be somewhat obsessed with the news and know what's going on in the world at any given moment. It's very important, the number of staff to student ratio, so that you get personal attention. Most of our practical classes are delivered in groups of about 15, so that you get time. This may be over a 2 or 3 hour day, and when we do our news production weeks, it may be an all-day session. But you will get personal attention from our very experienced lecturers, many of whom are the visiting lecturers, are people who are still working in the industry and can deliver up to date, and they're highly experienced, highly knowledgeable, and up to date in current practice in newsrooms. You're guaranteed that you get at least 1 hour of personal tutorials each term, in both terms 1 and 2. Most of our teaching is done over 2 terms, 1 and 2. The international tend to have a 3rd term, but for most of the other students, they'll be working on a final project, a big project, or dissertation, which shows their full scope of their capabilities they've developed over the year. 2 of our courses are accredited by outside bodies. They benchmark us and have quite strict demands to make sure we are meeting their requirements. The TV journalism course is accredited by an organisation known as the Broadcast Journalism Training Council, and it's a very good accreditation. We take it very seriously, and they come round and inspect us regularly to make sure that we're delivering what we say we're due to deliver. And likewise for the MA Magazine Journalism, we're accredited by the Periodic Publishers Association, and they will require us also to meet their standards, and they are rigorous too. What we can really say is about speakers and events is, because we are in the heart of London, we have fantastic access to some of the greatest journalists in the world. London is a major news hub, not only with the UK media, which is based here, but in all the different media forms, whether newspapers, TV, radio, online. We have a huge industry here, but we also have a lot of journalists from different news organisations across the world based here in bureaus. We also get a good number of major figures in journalism pass through. They may be coming into City to talk to our students. They may be passing through for major events. But we, for instance, in the last few months, we've had Marty Barron, who is the very famous editor of the Washington Post, and he's the key figure in the Hollywood movie Spotlight that some of you may have seen. And recently we also had Harold Evans, who is considered one of the great journalists, one of the great British journalists, who is usually resident in Manhattan, but was coming through and came and did a conversation with Professor Franks a couple of months ago. We have events on most weeks, and we have an endless stream of senior industry journalists coming into our courses and advising people. It's not just the big lecture room things. It's every day we have very senior people coming in to talk about what they do and showing students how they can improve their journalism. One of the other great things about City is our network. We have over 5,000 people who have passed through the journalism department and done their postgraduate degrees here. And one of the things we've noticed is the fantastic loyalty that they show and the support they provide for new journalists coming in. And this means that you have access to this phenomenal network. It's not just in the UK, it's spread across the world. Last year when I was in Shanghai, I just let it be known that I'd like to meet some of alumni, and I met with 4 on one night. This is just in Shanghai. A few days later, I was in Hong Kong, met some more there. And what we do when we go out is we try to meet and keep in touch with our alumni. And it means that if you're here and you're looking for a job, you can ask their advice, perhaps ask whether there are some opportunities around where they work. It is a very powerful network, and many of the people, because we've been doing this since 1976, have become very, very senior people in the media world across the globe. Many editors did their initial training here. Many of the people that you see on the screen, not only in the UK but in many other countries, will have been trained at City Journalism. We have a very high employment rate. Now, you'll see this on nearly every university's claim that they get great employment. But if you look on our site, you'll see some figures that are provided by an independent outfit, which we call DELHE, but it's DLHE, and that they essentially ascertain how quickly our students have been employed and where they get employed. And you will see that the most recent data set shows that we have 95% of our students have been employed within 6 months of leaving the course. And within that, 97% of those employed, 97% are in professional or managerial positions. We're very, very proud of this. I don't think really there is any university it compares on the scale that we do, given we have a considerable cohort of students leaving each year. Just about everybody finds themselves in employment within 6 months, and we are very, very proud of that. Now, I've just skipped one there. I'll just go back if you bear with me a second. Now, this is a slide that probably means more to UK viewers or candidates than it will to people from other countries, but these are all on the people on there are some very prominent figures within the UK media who graduated from here over the last 30 years, some more recently, some way back then. But there is the former. I can see immediately. There's there's a political editor of the BBC. There's a number of on-screen presenters from the BBC and elsewhere. There's a Guardian commentator. There's the editor of the Sun newspaper, and the numbers just go on there. There's James Harding, was director of news at the BBC. He'd been the editor of the Times. So you can get a sense that these people have started at City and been able to progress to the highest levels of the British media, and there are many people who have done that in other news organisations across the world. Wherever you go, as I say, you will encounter City journalism graduates. And in fact, where we tend to recruit from most strongly is by word of mouth. This often happens when people who are interested in journalism, do some work experience in a newsroom to see whether they like it, and they ask the people there, how can I become a journalist? And they will say, go to City. And so word of mouth is our most powerful recruiting tool. It also reflects how strongly those people can feel to recommend us on that kind of basis. They say, if you want to get into journalism with a very, very good chance of getting the job, go to City because we train and develop you. And it's also worth saying that I've talked a lot about journalism up to here, but it's an MA course. And an MA course also will challenge you intellectually. So we will, at various points, explain to you concepts and ideas and challenge you, as I said, with ethics, but also media law. And you will find it very demanding, and we'll ask you to do some tough essays. But it's like all things with journalism, it's transformational. It develops your personality, your character. If when you're early stages, we say to you, we're going to teach you how to do journalism. We may ask you to go out and interview somebody. And this means that you have to go and meet someone, perhaps from a country you're not used to being in yet, and ask them some questions and try and find a story. It's quite tough. Everybody gets nervous when they do it. but it develops you. It's like all things in life. You meet challenges, you develop confidence, and that's what we seek to do. So now, this slide I've just brought up here is actually a video which we use if you were in a live presentation in the lecture theatre here. You can find this actually on our website, and it's very important that you hear what the students actually say. You might feel that as Deputy Head of Journalism, I'm going to say lots of positive things. Well, the thing to do is hear what the students have to say. So I would recommend after this webinar has finished that you might look on our website and have a look and see what the students, you'll find this and there's quite a lot of student interviews that are endorsing what their experience has been at City. So I'll just run through those courses again so we've got a fair idea. There's MA International Journalism. Who's it for? Now, as with most of our courses, but not exclusively, and I'll explain that in a moment, it's suitable for students with a good first degree and a strong international interest in international news and the way it's reported. So these are people who are interested in perhaps reporting from one country to another, and as perhaps foreign correspondents or bureau people. So that's what, and you want to keep up. You might want to work for CNN. It could be Al Jazeera. It could be CCTV. But this will give you the grounding that you need. And as we say, students who have completed this course are very employable in the media, and you are multi-skilled. And MA Finance, I mentioned to you. This is the one where you will be subsidised and able to go to the Fudan University in Shanghai for a week, where you will hear lectures, and then you will be taken around the commercial sector of Shanghai to meet a range of people in the economic sector and also in the financial news organisation. And this is a picture from the year that I went, which was last year, and you can see me. We're just about to have a quick drink from my glass. I got caught out there. That's Shanghai in the back, and that was our group that year. So you'll get a flavour of. We all like to have a bit of fun too. MA Newspaper and Interactive. These two work often closely together. They produce news both for print and also for social media online, and also for online news sites. Each year we produce, the people on the MA Magazine course will produce a magazine, X-City, in which they interview our alumni. Here you see some prominent alumni. Andrew Marr, who was the editor of The Independent, is now a prominent BBC journalist. He's an alumni from here. And he was the feature on that year. That was our 40th year. And the more recent one last year has Christina Lamb, who's a very famous foreign correspondent working for the Sunday Times. And this is all produced by students. They go, and it's a substantial magazine. And we also include lots of examples of, we interview and provide details of many of our people who are part of our network, the alumni who are now working across the world. These are the specialisms I mentioned, the electives you can choose from: arts and culture specialism, finance and business, health and science, humanitarian. There's a lot of interest in humanitarian reporting. The investigative reporting specialism, those want to dig a bit more deeply. There's the lifestyle specialism, for those who are very sort of interested in the feature area. Popular culture, that's another one which if you're interested in features. We also have a very successful political reporting specialism, which usually involves trips to Parliament, the UK Parliament, with Big Ben meeting. This year our students have met the Speaker of the House of Commons. It's been a particularly tense year in the UK, as you might imagine, with Brexit, but that gave a certain amount of excitement for our visiting students. We also have a report in the Middle East specialism, security and crime specialism, and sports specialism. I mentioned that we have guest speakers. This is Laura Koonsberg. For any of you who watch BBC, you'll be familiar with her as the political editor of the BBC, who's been trying to explain the complexities of Brexit now for several years. But she is one of many people who have come and talked to our students here. Another is Marty Barron, who I mentioned. Recently we had the Catherine Viner, the editor-in-chief of the Guardian newspaper, and is the editor-in-chief of both the Guardian and the Observer. Many of you will know the Guardian because it has one of the most widely read online news sites in the world. It also has an Australian and also a UK bureau, a New York bureau. Some of you might recognise the leader of the Labour Party. We have a thing here called Question Time, which is where we bring in politicians and get the audience to ask them difficult questions. And we film it, so it's very, very much like the BBC version of this, and we always aim to be a professional outfit in how we deliver. Now, this is a quick tour. This also can be found online. So if you'd like to have a look at that, that will give you an inclination to see how our department, with its many different, we have many different rooms. Some of them are TV, some are for radio, some are for print, some are for online. We have substantial resources because we have a lot of students. It enables us to get the most up-to-date equipment. We're about to bring in a new multimedia room that will have state-of-the-art, so we can do amazing sessions with students all around group tables and be able to work together. And that will be in place in the next 2 months. So if you join us, it will be all ready and tried and tested by the time you arrive here. I mentioned student employability. Well, what you see there is something. This was a group of students I was teaching, and they had only joined it on the MA Investigative course, and they had only been going 6 weeks when one of them got a story in the big London paper. This happens quite regularly. Our students from a very early stage are acting as journalists. One of the important things I think I might say to you is that the moment you arrive, we view you as a journalist, not so much a student. We expect you to behave and perform as a journalist, and that you will, how can I put this? You will, you're an early career, and we make sure that you don't try and do anything that's too complicated or risks any legal action. But we get you to try and think like a journalist from the earliest stages, absorbing yourself in the news each day. Right, and there's more. This was one of our students. Did an investigation, and that got printed while they're still on the course. Last week, we had a student who, whilst only 6 months into the course, has just produced a one-hour documentary for the BBC's Radio 4 programme, which is an amazing piece of work. We're used to our students doing amazing things, but this was exceptional to get to be in a position to produce for the BBC an entire hour-long radio programme for their flagship Radio 4 channel. Work experience. Well, while you're here, we encourage you to do work experience, and it's by dint of being in London, it's made much easier for you because we have a reputation. We find that most news organisations are very pleased to take city students on work experience because they know these are the students of the future, and London is the media hub, so it makes so much more easy. I mentioned these figures to you: 95%, 97%. They're there if you need them, and they've increased again. We constantly improve our delivery to our students. We're constantly keeping up to date, make sure that we're at the forefront of news delivery. We also have some scholarships, a range of different ones for different circumstances. Marjorie Dean Financial Journalism, they provide a scholarship for students. Some are available only to UK students, others are more broadly available. Some students come to us through other schemes like the Chevening Journalism, which is operated by the Foreign Office, so we get people from that. So the range of opportunities should you need a scholarship or bursary to help you. And our students pick up endless awards each year. This was an example. So you can have a look at that if you want later. And so it goes. The Google Labs provide 15 opportunities to work with them each year, going out to different news organisations, and we got 4 out of the 15 this year. We think that's pretty good. But we are not complacent. As I said to you, we make a great deal of effort to keep up with the industry and what it's doing. And this is the new multimedia room. This is, as you can see, this is computer aided, but I can tell you it's nearly looking like that. Just waited, put the electronic equipment in, and it should be up and running in the next month or so. Each year, I should say, we do have a major guest speaker event, which is known as the James Cameron Memorial Lecture. That's James Cameron was a famous British foreign correspondent, and this year it was Lionel Barber. He's the editor of the Financial Times, which is probably the most prominent UK newspaper at this moment. They are doing exceptional work, great investigative journalism, and deliver a fantastic financial service to their readers. So, thank you for listening. I hope it's been useful. And I'm going to try and to answer some of the questions that have come up since I started.